test. Okay. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm Calvin. I'm from Sunway Theme Parks. We currently manage Sunway Lagoon, Sunway Lost World of Tambun, Sunway Hotel, and Skate City.
I am Daniel Chong from representing Sunway University. University size of about 12,000, and I'm actually management of hospitality management. Nice.
The easy answer is human management. It is attitude. It is uh, how we train our team to think sustainable development, to practice sustainable development, to do sustainable development. It is a habit of human to whether we do it effectively, do we do it continuously? So the fundamental is human activities. May, may I say something? What I think, Prof. Daniel, I think that's where education institution and practitioners or parks like us, we can collaborate, we can share, we can actually do this experiential sharing on real life thing. And Daryl, you mentioned cost, right? It's sustainable cost. I think that is very powerful. I think what you said is so right. Everything we do in sustainability, we have to earn it first. We have to be profitable in order for us to do good. We have to be strong in order to help the weaker ones.
I think it's pretty amazing because what you're saying is exactly how we see collaboration of business. It's one thing just to try and execute practice, but the only way to balance how it has a strong impact is with someone who must background in that. And firstly, that what's taught in theory and practically applied, you feel something that we're very, very having practice. How we very, very to talk about that there is a ocean for us to show people. So in that regard, it's quite tied to both our raison d'etre, the reason for us being, as well as our business model. So for us, justification of why we would do sustainable measures, conservation initiatives, even if they may not be directly profitable to your bottom line as a company, they do have a very intangible and direct impact on our business and how we see ourselves moving forward in the future.
What do you think about that, Mr. Kelvin? How would you navigate that as far from a theme park's perspective?
In Sunway theme parks, we are more diverse. We have a broad base of things that we do. Let me focus on one, perhaps. That is our wildlife park. We have two zoos, one in Sunway Lagoon and the other one is at Lost World of Tambun. And similarly to what Daryl have said, protecting the ocean, we also advocate the need to share with the younger generation or to our audience that comes to the park about the importance of protecting our natural resources, the forests, the mountains. Yes, human needs to exist. Human needs to live. We need to build houses. We need to have industrialized. We are an industrialized nation, and we need to live. But we actually can have that balance if we plan it well. And I think our park has a little bit to share when it comes to that balance. We actually took, both our parks actually took a wasteland and converting it to a wonderland, we call it. We convert something that was mined out back in the days, and it's no longer livable, and then we just make it beautiful. So we turn something bad into good. Hence, rather than we cutting down trees, we build theme parks in areas of natural areas or lakes, or we backfill lakes. We actually make the lakes bigger, better, and we protect the environment. But that comes with the environment that brings also natural. Besides the zoo that we have, we are surrounded by a lot of visiting wild animals. In the case of Lost World of Tambun, we have visiting wild tigers, especially during mating season in June. So it's a very interesting thing that we do. We have wild boars that comes to the fringe, and they are friendly. They are not threatening. They are very friendly. So we are very nice. We have that balance between nature and theme park. Hence, we can still make a bit of money while we protect nature, while we give back to the environment, to the people, and become sustainable for the next generation.
Okay, so two incredibly different takes on this, and that covers the attraction, theme park attraction, and family entertainment side of things. But Prof, then I wonder then, in the context of, let's say, Sunway University, a private academic institution, how would that be navigated through?
In terms of
In
cost?
terms of, how you balance the profit goals and sustainability objectives, like what's your take on that?
I think what is really important is profit also come with economic sustainability. So that's how it works. So the principle should build on, if you want to continue to have a healthy profit, you should have a healthy, sustainable system in place. So though we understand that the cost is very much into a lot of environmental sustainability, well, we can't deny that that is not an easy task, and it can be very costly, according to Mr. Darrell. So understanding that part of it, but not forgetting that economic sustainability and social sustainability, that also provide that kind of a profit model in place. So I think as an institution, what is very important is, yes, we want to show great example, we want to commit to that. I think that commitment will translate into values, and that it helps to regain that profit eventually. Well, let's look at it as a long-term plan. Costing is needed. Look at it as an investment rather than an expense.
I mean, I think it's interesting that you mentioned the value and the long-term plan of it, because we've touched on the profit side of things, but if we were to flip it and see the other end of the spectrum where, again, Prof. Daniel, how can then academic institutions, I would say, design sustainability programs for real-world impact? Because you talk about value and the long term of things.
So for Sunway University, we look at SDG and we take SDG very, very seriously. 17 goals. So very difficult to digest, right? 17 goals. But how can we split that into units? And then we're just gonna tell every student, or we go to and talk to our lecturers and said, you have about 30 subjects in the entire degree program, right? And if you split that across 3 years, that means you have about 10 subjects per year. And now let's take that SDG goal and divide it according to the subjects and divide it into assignment. Now we could see that that is not so intimidating at all, because now we are taking it bite sizes, and then that's, I think, a true impact. By doing small, but cumulatively, it became an impact before they graduate. So I think instead of, thinking that graduation for a student is all about attainment of knowledge, I think it should be a portfolio of SDGs that they have been doing throughout the years. We can't change things overnight. We can't make an impact overnight or a week or a month. But if you can do that in a year across the journey, I think that is what we call impact. Small impact, cumulative, big impact.
No, I think I can definitely relate to back in my personal schooling years when it was introduced to us, and you talked about the 17 and the 13. When it was taught to us, it was very overwhelming, because it was sort of, here it is. So now you got to sort of digest and sort of understand the information all at once. So I'm not sure if that was the same for you, Mr. Darrell, Mr. Kelvin, during your time of education.
I think between the three of us, we've had very different
phases in eras of education, but I think it reflects the changing nature of both business and society as a whole, as we become more aware of both the research as well as the impact that we have on the world. So for me, sustainability was something that I think in both my family and in my own interests was a very central part of what we did. But from a schooling perspective or from an educational perspective, not the most emphasized thing, not as it is now. I think we have a much bigger awareness of how important sustainability actually is, both in our personal lives, economically, and from a business perspective as well.
Mr. Kelvin, even further back.
Okay, we mentioned era. So it's very clear, I'm the oldest guy here. So my education days, there's no such thing as SDG. It is new, But interesting thing about it, before SDG even existed or came to Malaysia per se, for practices, this is about 18 years ago, under the leadership of Sir Geoffrey Chia. He already practices Sunway sustainable development goals without that formal introduction of SDG. We can distinctively remember or vividly remember the time that we built the parks, and he is very specific about conserving nature. Don't cut the trees, protect the lakes. I think there's only very few developers in Malaysia or around the world and see a lake and he says make it bigger. For a real estate person or property, when we build properties and business, every square feet is profit. He is actually showed us SDG back in the days. This is my experience with our chairman and founder. So we practice that. Until today, we don't really cut trees unless it's of danger. We preserve. If you look at some of the part of our zoo, especially at Lost World of Tambun, if you look at the zoo, it was never designed properly. It was never designed properly. The pathway is unique. There's no drain. There's no drainage. Because we are trying to preserve the contour of the natural trees, the tree lines, the mountains, because Lost World is surrounded by limestone formation, natural limestone formation. So we have to work around it. By not having a drain, we can't clean the park properly. So we actually came up with something called the EM, the effective microorganism. We learned from a professor from Japan, Professor Torio Higa, and he wrote that paper on how to make EM. And then our team went on and to make EM using vegetables or fruit waste. When we cut vegetables, when we cut fruits, we do a fermentation process and we create our own first mother EM, and we subsequently, of course, we replicate it over the years, and we're still using it until today. So we started like that. We have a good leader that took us through sustainable development before even I knew what SDG is. Definitely my era, no such thing as SDG.
I mean, so it's definitely, I would say, a decade-long sort of journey and transformation, right? But I believe we have time to squeeze in one last question, if we're okay with that. So, it's a question to all of you, so definitely feel free to jump in and elaborate on this. What would a fully eco-friendly, carbon-neutral attraction or entertainment center look like? Woo,
This is too hard.
Feel free, anyone.
Daryl, go ahead.
To start with, it would look very beautiful. I mean, it's not a cop-out answer. It would be beautiful because sustainability is something, or even carbon neutral and all that, it's rooted in good design. I think Mr. Kelvin had referred to that in most of what he said, where planning is really important, the way they are designed and the way they are laid out. And if you do that well, and you keep in mind that you want both to be carbon neutral, you want to ensure that there is minimal wastage, your net zero
it would invariably mean that you would need to leave quite a lot of the greenery, quite a lot of the areas and such. You would need to perhaps spend a lot more in terms of ensuring that it wasn't too crowded, in the sense where you're trying to maximize every ounce of profit from this small area. So it would, by nature, end up looking quite beautiful. It would be quite natural in that sense. And, you know, I think design reflects intention as well. So if your intent was to make something that was going to be carbon neutral, or something that was reflective of sustainability of nature itself, it would look, you know, suitably appealing in that sense.
Rolf? We tried very, very hard. We are very honest. We are very clear. We tried very, very hard. But I don't think we have the ultimate formula to create a total sustainable development park. But then again, when we don't have something, we have something else that is even better. That is the most important word: partnership. Today, we are seated with Mr. Darryl Fong. That Aquaria, KLCC, and they are now in Asia. They are open Aquaria, Aquaria all over Asia. I'm sure it's a matter of time it goes around the world. Why? Because of their fundamentals. So picking partners is key. We look forward to working even more and learning more, because I feel keeping animals is hard. Aquarium is harder. It is about water treatment, the right salinity, and so on and so forth. Another important thing, you see the three of us are seated here. We are practitioners. We need a proper university. What better partner than Prof. Daniel, the university, Sunway University, to also show us the way, because they practice that. They have that sustainable program. And not only from practices, from human resource, from everything else. So when we have the right partnership, I feel that we may one day achieve that perfect, sustainable theme parks.
Okay. I love that wrap up, but of course, last but not least, for Prof. Daniel on this question. What's your take on that?
First of all, very, very good question. Very difficult to answer, but I definitely agree with the two gentlemen. I think that park, that attraction, would first name it. Now, we hear edutainment a lot. Now, edutainment is not something new, but I would say this will be certainly a sustainatainment park. So I think that is how it began, with the concept of sustainatainment. And the parks, the people in the park will be all has its shares. I can imagine you have scientists in the park. I can imagine you have the conservatory experts in the park. We have all the way down to the groundwork. You have rangers in the park. And of course, the people that entertained will be a responsible entertainer. Responsible people who enjoy the entertainment. So I think that's how I picture, with this kind of stakeholders in place, and that naturally will co-create an environment of the concept of
of a completely eco-friendly attraction.
park,
That's right. No, I think that's a really great wrap up to the question. It's incredibly insightful, and I think we've actually come to the end of our session. But again, once again, I'd like to thank all of our speakers, Mr. Kelvin, Mr.
Thank you.
Darryl, Professor Daniel, for being here with us. It was a short session, but very insightful, and I really hope that our audience here today have learned something, that you are inspired by it, and I've definitely learned something new on my end as well. So once again, thank you so much to everyone here, to all the shoppers who are actually listening in on the session. We have a lot more exciting sharing sessions throughout our roadshow, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Thank you once again to everyone and our speakers.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Next will be Singapore.